Hi, happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the middle of the week. You are nearly halfway through the week and you've all done a brilliant, brilliant job because you've all been at home and you've stayed safe and made sure that you were following all the rules, and you've been absolutely fantastic. And your teachers told me all about how hard you've been working again. So well done, guys. You are being absolutely brilliant. Now, what you've also done, hopefully, is if your grown-ups have got this right, is they have shown you a video about some birds. And if you haven't, then go back to the description of this video and click on the link, find the information about the birds video, and watch the video about the birds first before you carry on watching anything else here, because if you don't see that video, it won't make any sense to you whatsoever. Okay, if you have watched the video, well done. Right, so how did the film make you feel? Talk to somebody, tell somebody about how that film about the birds made you feel. Okay, well done, guys. I quite enjoyed it. I felt very sorry for the big bird, but I thought it was quite funny in the way it was presented as well. But I did feel quite sorry for them. So, what was the same about all the characters? Okay, tell your adults. They were all birds, yeah, not humans. But what was different about one of the birds? What was different about one of them? Again, tell your adults what was different about one of the birds. That's right, we've got one of the birds that looked a bit different and acted differently as well, different mannerisms. Now, what about that flock of birds who were all sitting on the telegraph wire? How did they treat the newcomer? How do they treat the newcomer, the different looking bird? Well, they weren't very kind, were they? They weren't very welcoming, and certainly not how we behave at Wincham. If somebody new starts in the school, we all welcome them, because everybody's welcome at Wincham. They were unwelcoming. They moved away from the newcomer. But who actually lost out in the end? Who lost out in the end? That's right. It was the flock of birds, because they lost their feathers. So they weren't kind. They weren't nice. They didn't treat the newcomer in the right way, and they lost out because of it. Now, we know if we have somebody new starting in our class, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant for them because they get to come to the best school ever. But it's also really, really good for all of you guys because you get a new friend. You get somebody new to play with, and that's always really, really cool. Now, we've kind of talked about how the birds might have had better attitudes, because I know all of you guys would really welcome somebody. So tell your grown-up, what would you do to welcome that person, to welcome somebody new, even if they look different, just like the bird in the video looked a bit different? Tell your grown-up your ideas. Now, I bet you've had some really, really cool ideas about playing with people, about making sure they knew where they were going, about making sure they got friends, making sure they could do their work and helping them and chatting to them, finding out about them. Lots of really cool ideas. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a story from the Bible, and I want you to listen to the story and see if you can spot any differences, any similarities between the story and the film that you've just watched. I guess the main difference is the story in the Bible isn't going to be about birds, but see if you can see any similarities, ways the two stories are the same. Okay, so the town was abuzz. Jesus was coming to visit. Now, Zacchaeus was curious. He'd heard many stories of this man who was attracting large crowds wherever he went. The man's preaching was really powerful, and many healings had been witnessed. Watching Jesus actually heal people and make them better. Some even said he was the promised Messiah. Wow, he was the Son of God. Zacchaeus wondered where he should go to get a good view, because he knew there would be huge crowds. He heard the excited chatter of people in the street outside his house, all going in the same direction, and he knew what reception he would get when he stepped outside his front door, but he had to go and see. Zacchaeus stepped outside. As he'd expected, the people passing him gave him the look that he was used to, a mixture of disdain and hatred. He was one of them, and yet he wasn't. He was Jewish by birth, but of a different class. So they were all poor, but he was really wealthy. And he was a tax collector employed by the Romans. So he collected money from all the other people that he lived with. He'd become wealthy at their expense because they'd had to give him money, and they wouldn't let him forget it. They were not happy with Zacchaeus at all. It wasn't pleasant, but to be honest, Zacchaeus could see their point. Now, the streets were lined with crowds, and they were 3 deep in some places. Zacchaeus wasn't very tall, so he didn't have a chance of seeing over people's heads. He also knew there was no way the crowd were going to make room for him to move to the front like they did for children. Suddenly, Zacchaeus had an idea. Running on ahead, he climbed up a sycamore tree. He'd get a great view from there. He could hide among the branches and the leaves. It was perfect. And now he could see Jesus approaching. Jesus stopped right underneath the tree. Zacchaeus held his breath as the man looked up. Zacchaeus, a voice said, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. Zacchaeus almost fell out of the tree in surprise. Flushed with embarrassment, he climbed down, and he could hear confused, muttering voices, and he saw the dirty looks pass between his neighbours. He's gone to be the guest of a sinner, said a disgusted, angry voice. Somehow it didn't matter anymore, though. Jesus wanted to come to his house. Oh, yes, please come, Zacchaeus said. You are so welcome. Now, we're not told how the conversation between Jesus and Zacchaeus went that afternoon, but we know that before the day was over, Zacchaeus was a changed man. In the coming days, he'd shock the townspeople further by giving half of his possessions to the poor, by paying back 4 times over those who he'd cheated. Zacchaeus had made many, many mistakes, but so had the rest of the townspeople. Jesus had come to seek and save all those who were lost and needed rescuing. So, let's have a quick think about that story, and let's see if we can go through some of the same questions. So, how did the story make you feel? Were you sorry for Zacchaeus because the people didn't like him? Did you feel sorry for the other people because Zacchaeus had collected money from them? What was the same about all the characters in the story? They weren't all birds. They were all humans. That's right. Now, what was different about Zacchaeus? He was a tax collector. He was very unpopular. And what was the attitude of the townspeople towards Zacchaeus? Tell your grown-up. That's right. They were unkind. They were angry. They were unwelcoming. And who lost out in the end? It wasn't Zacchaeus, was it? It was the townspeople, because Jesus went to Zacchaeus' house. Now, why do you think Jesus chose to go to Zacchaeus' house? Quite possibly because Jesus heard the townspeople being unkind to Zacchaeus, and actually Jesus wanted to show that everybody was loved. So here's a bit of a thought, okay? Have a think about your actions towards other people. Sometimes do you say things that can be a little bit unkind or a little bit hurtful? We all do it. We all get a little bit grumpy. We all get a little bit annoyed and snap at people. Do you sometimes say something, maybe to mum or dad, or aunt or uncle, or brother or sister, or even to the dog? Do you say things you don't mean? Do you say, oh, I don't want to do that, I hate you for doing that, I'm really cross with you? And you're not cross. You don't hate them. Because it's just mum or dad saying you've got to go to bed. Now, we've all got to go to bed at some point. We've all got to eat our tea at some point. And mum and dad are trying their hardest to look after you guys to make sure that you're okay. That's the important thing. So we need to think about the lessons in the picture, in the video about the birds, and we need to think about the lesson in the story about Zacchaeus, because there were people in both of those stories who didn't treat somebody in the right way. Now, it might be that you're in school and we've got somebody who has started recently in the school, some new people in the school. It might be you're in school and you've got Miss Hilton with you, or Mrs. Bates, and they're kind of fairly new to the school as well. You might be thinking about how nicely you can speak to them and make them feel really welcome at Wincham. Okay, so keep thinking, guys, about how you speak to people when you're talking to them, making sure that you are being kind to absolutely everybody, whether it's people that you live with or people that you are in school with. So have a lovely, lovely day, guys. Keep thinking about how you're going to treat other people and how you want to be treated. Okay, because every single one of us is special. So see if you can treat everybody in a very special way throughout the rest of your day. Have a lovely rest of the day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.